This is the Ponderous Brickthinker with a castle update. And the update is, I'm going to focus on the Tower of Immersion and figure out where the columns and beams are going to be placed, and continue working on the vehicles that are going to go into the Tower of Action. In the intro, you might have noticed the stacks of 2x2 bricks. I'm going to be using these for sketching where the columns are going to go. I don't want to build the columns because I still don't. I'm guessing right now I'm going to have 3 sets of columns and beams. But making the columns is kind of, well, colors. And so right now I just want to do the sketch, see if it works, and then follow up with the proper color arrangements. And right now I am seeing that there is the opportunity to put 4 right in between these transparent pieces, but since the beams are coming out thick, I think it's just going to be too much. So if I keep it 3, there might be a chance that I can, keep it more airy than sealing the Lego people in with structure. So the idea is trying to keep it as open as possible, and I'm thinking 3, which means there's going to be a column somewhere right here, which can be okay. It could be a feature, but that's part of why I want to do this in sketch mode, so that I can see what is going to be visible, especially since there's going to be some transparency here, but is it going to be open enough to be kind of the nature flowing into the tower? I added the columns and beams for what will be the zone for the sea. It's only that level. There could be some in between in terms of beams, but for right now, this is just demonstrating this is the sea zone, so that when I come in with the proper colors, it will be this color combination. But by placing this here, I can see that this platform is coming kind of close to this. Could it be a bridge between towers? Maybe. Because this is the first time I've seen it this close. In previous times, I had the measuring stick just kind of stuck right there, and that was just to indicate the rough height of the tower. But now that this is here, I can see, wow, these 2 towers are kind of close, so we can experiment with if they are going to be meant to be close, or separate them. But even if I separate them, it can still be a bridge. And by that I mean, if we have 3 sets for the sea, 2 for the land, and then 1 for the sky. That way it's kind of coming in this direction, rather steeply I think, but that it's not just going to be a pure rectangle, but I'll still build it and just see how that looks. So that way I can see, okay, the rectangle works, or the one that goes that direction at a slight angle. But this is just the beginning. Now the next phase will be just to put into the columns for the land zone. Now I have placed the columns and beams for the land zone. You can see that it's on top of the sea. It is a lot more bigger than what I thought it would be, but I think it overall fits. Still seeing there's enough distance between that and the Tower of Action. The connection between the Tower of Understanding does lend itself. Kind of surprising. I didn't expect that when I made the Tower of Understanding platforms. But 3 of these are bedrooms, and that one could be a passageway into the other tower. We'll see. Next step will be the sky zone, and Just seeing how it looks like from different angles. Overall, it is promising. One thing I did notice was right here. I'm going to need to have cross bracing, something along here, because of that. But also at the same time, if this is going to be strong, maybe that is where the upper levels fall into, because remember, part of this tower is going to be removable, just in case I need to move this aside for some reason, but just to have that flexibility. So this is not going to be staying in terms of the land. I think the sea will be fine. So just so that's not super high, that has to be balanced ever so carefully. It's just if I make this strong with Technic probably and other pieces, so that way this can be placed into, much like how I have the staircase for the Tower of Understanding, where it just kind of rests on top of plates, the smooth kind. So this is just giving me an idea of how big this level is with 3 sets of columns and beams. I added the columns and beams for the sky zone, and it does make it really tall. And I thought, why does it seem so tall? Well, this is the original guiding stick that I created for the Tower of Immersion, in which case, okay, so around here, it's 8 right there. So I thought, okay, so it'll be 4 levels for the sky, 4 levels for the land, and I thought 4 levels for this sea. But realistically, the sea ended right here for this estimate. It would have been maybe that much. So realistically, this tower should be 1 level less if I'm going by this guidance. And I'm thinking it might have to, just because it's so tall. The Tower of Action doesn't seem that tall anymore. And well, that was the intent, that it will start low and then gradually get up there. The other thing it should do is to have each zone only have 3. So that means -3, it will be this high. So 1 level of yellow. And if you can imagine that, it is more or less where it needs to be, but it's still about 2 levels lower than the guidance. The guidance was just just going by eye how tall the tower should be. So there's no real reason behind it other than that's what the first initial guess what the tower should be. And I think it does need to go lower. Because right here, so from here it's really much more dominant than the Tower of Action. So I'm wondering if I should. First, before I do that, let me go from here and then try out the 3, 2, and 1 arrangement and see how that looks. It might balance out because it's not going to be as massive. It will still be that tall, but just not as many columns, so it might look a little bit different. So here is the modified version of the Tower of Immersion. It's still kind of massive, but not as much. By having it 4 levels, it does make a rather tall rectangle. Not that it's bad, but it is. It does really emphasize the verticalness. And what's going to go inside are several levels somewhere in between that represent the current zone. And somewhere in there is going to be bedrooms. Sirius with the sea, Wolverine with the land, Storm with the sky. And this can still bridge. I am still curious to see how each zone looks like with just 3 levels each. So that'll be the next step. Here is the modified zone height. Each zone has 3 levels, and it's the staggered effect, 3 on the bottom for C, and it does more or less end where I have the transparent parts, which kind of align what's there or pre-planned, and then 3 for the land and 3 for the sky. This one looks a little bit more manageable. It is lower than the guidance, but I can always extend it out. As you can see here, it looks like, and that might be a feature of this tower where the elements of the zone are bursting out of the structure. The structure's in here, and then these are kind of ballooning outward, which could be something nice. And since these are kind of bulging out already, might as well go with that and make that a feature for the rest of the zones too. So it's not just this and that for the sky, it can be around it too, so that it's like the element coming out of the, or the elements of the zone are coming out of the structure. I think I'm going to keep it there, just because for scaling wise, this is already kind of big for a minifig, and making it bigger would just make it way, way bigger. But also for progression scale, the Tower of Understanding is going to be tight, but that's also kind of part of the character of this tower. And this one doesn't need to be expansive, it just needs to kind of help the minifigs be immersed in nature. I haven't thought of a real reason why they need a tower for that, but that's what the tower is for. And then the Tower of Action is supposed to be the bigger one. And with this scale, it does lend itself to be that. That it's also for everybody, but it's the launch pads, kitchen, and command center. So that in terms of scale, I think that's how it should work out. And as a quick reminder, that is how it was with 4 levels for each zone. Maybe in another project, it will be that scale will be perfect. But for right now, I think the 3 levels for each zone is the way to go. So now that I more or less have the structure in place, I can now start thinking of what to do with the other elements. Like here, do I move them so that they're in between the columns and kind of bursting out, or keep it like this? And it's going to be more sketch work, especially where the levels are going to be and where the bedrooms are going to go, so that at least I have something to look at and kind of, yeah, it should be something like that. So that way there is some progress for the next one. But for right now, let me go into the vehicles. I think I was anticipating using more of the 2x2s, but I'll put them away later. For now, it's the vehicle's turn. And this is where the vehicle last left off. It has an engine, has flames, and has this. But right now I want to focus on where the minifigs and the dinosaur and the mini minifig is going to go. Last we left it, it was going to be something like running against the wall, and the controls are going to be there. But as you can see, it's like that. If you're going to if you're going to run against the wall, it's going to be that orientation. But this is part from the Mako submarine, done early in my channel, so that the operator is lying down like that and head first in the submarine, which, it's an interesting concept. This orientation works fine. It's just when you have to go against the wall and then kind of lean back in order to grab the controls. Yeah, that's not as convincing. So if I go back one and then say, for example, that would be the floor, something like that. Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. If you're coming down the hall and to here, then you can step in like that, so that, let's see, it looks like two of them. No? Maybe that? Let me see. I think would one more be too much? For Quidditch height, Quadridge height, that might be fine. But also there's nothing really indicating control panel other than not that one, this one. Let's see, put you here and then like that. Because this could be the control panel. Just pretend it's a screen of push buttons like the modern spacecraft. That's all touch screen. Something like that. Okay, so this works for Quadridge, which is um, 3 and then that. So when we come to Logan, probably going to be all 3. Just standing on there for the controls. Let's see. Do I have... Okay, but let's see how it looks like this for Logan. It could be there. Not as convincing with the minifig, but the minifigs, they have a different dimension. And let's see here. That probably works better to some extent. It's within arm's reach, the touchscreen. So then for the vehicle that's Logan's going to operate, it's going to need some steps to get to this height or ladder. And there we go. Okay, so then Beta works even better because then the nose can be touching the screen. I'll probably just modify this a little bit so that Beta has a better foothold. There. All right, and then let's see. Sarah's right here. Then I'm gonna need Chewbacca because I think Chewbacca can't really bend the arms that high, but let's see. It works there, but also it seems like there needs to be a little bit more cushion to rest on to make it a little bit more believable. Just like that. But then how does that affect Quadridge, if anything? No, he's down this one. Oh, doesn't. Okay, so it could be that. It's just this will work for Quadridge, and everybody else would have one more brick. can be able to operate like that. And then let's say Chewbacca. That's as how high Chewbacca can raise his hands, and it's, yeah, within range. Excellent. So that could be the cockpit. Nothing is yet determined. Okay, so somehow they need to be protected from the elements while traveling. Coming this way, not so likely because they need to enter the vehicle this way, and then this can come close, or it's above them and come down this way. Okay. Okay. So the other question is if this is the touchpad screen, does that mean it's also the windshield? Because if they're traveling like this, they're only looking down. They would need to be kind of facing forward, which means it's kind of this orientation, which not the greatest, but realistically, okay, just like that, and then a jet pilot sits down. So that's the main difference. You can either be standing or sitting, but you're facing in the direction you're going. Which kind of says, I do have other hinges. Maybe it's time to experiment with sitting. Okay, so let's imagine. So continuing the thought that this is the outside, the floor is like this, and all the minifigs have to do is come and sit down, and then they go like whoop, and then they can still like not perfectly there, but and that would be more or less facing the direction they need to be facing. So this is out for now. Doesn't need to be out that far out, so oh, it's one of these. Okay, so I need to do I think I just touched it too. Okay, we'll just go with this one for now. So they sit down and then they can go like that and go there. The only issue I have, it's still kind of tall in this respect compared to this. This it's kind of let me try it. Does it make sense to then you go forward that way. There. That one, that's how it needs to be. But it's a little too close to this. Maybe a plate difference is all that it needs. The hooks are not for anything other than for the plate. Put you here, put you there. That seems good. And then travel. um, okay. Is there anything reason I can go that much except it's just the, let's see, without those hands in the way. Maybe one more plate and it'll be clear enough to, yeah. The feet are touching the studs and that's preventing rotation. So it does need to go out one more plate. There you are. This is the piece I was looking for. That. And then this can rest on that. Here. There we go. So the only other thing is where it's going to go in the tower. Because this works fine if the wall is right here. But in order for it to take off, does it mean it has to go like that and then go like this? That moves the roof this far from the wall so that the rest of the vehicle can go. And also what is rotating? So does that mean the vehicle is this big, roughly, so that this can occur? And also, oops, there. So those legs have to be like that. So it can still work for quadridge. The tail's not in the way for now, but without back support, then that's pretty good. Hmm. And then a regular minifig. Starting, entering, and then away. So it is going to be kind of bigger than what I thought. So that means it almost wants to be like that. If I start it here, at some distance away from the engine, it can still work. It'll be an unusual approach just because you start off like that. Which almost makes sense. And then take off and then travel like this. Okay, so one of the things from this little experiment is just how tall this is going to be, and it's not even including the windshield, which is where see, and how that's going to look either, because it's not there's a definite shape and size to it. So is this arrangement going to benefit from it? And also, it cannot really be from the back because that's where the minifig enters. This is almost okay. So is it gonna be like that? That's really tall. Because remember, it's going to be like this. And so then you go like that, and then like that. It's a really tall vehicle. I was kind of hoping it would be not as tall. Okay, and this is arising from the realization that standing does have some height to it, but sitting has a greater height because now it's this much, whereas before it was yeah. that or just standing and really back so you can see where you're going. It's almost looked like Zero's trapped. Okay, so I still need to think about it, especially how the minifigs interact with this vehicle. Let me think. Let me see something here. Just need a few, maybe a brick. They go in here. Oh, there. Okay, and then go like that. And now it looks really either really high-tech control thing or a high-tech capture pod. So that way they can see all around too. And I'm thinking this way because this one is, if I had enough of these domes, I'll probably use them for the top and bottom, but then also kind of looks like Sarah's captured. There's nothing indicating that she's in control unless, deliberately putting it at the front of the vehicle. Let's see how that might look. And then, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do that in terms of, okay, just for right now, just imagine that's there. Okay, well, by having it in that orientation does look like Sarah's in control. What about this way? No, it has to be this way or this way. There. The frostedness of this side doesn't make it doesn't read as being transparent as much as the other side. It makes more sense that this is what the Lego people are facing. Okay, and then a dinosaur. Harder to put in, I would say. Okay, so maybe somewhere in between, because that needs something in between to keep beta safe when going at high speeds. quad ridge with the tail and height also need something in between. Chewbacca can barely. So it's going to be something more than just this, something that can really wrap around and meet the oval shape of it. And then Storm with her winged outfit. Also, her hair is kind of forcing her out. Let's see if there's a... There we go. When we managed to get in there. um, hmm. Okay, so while this looks cool, I need to figure out a way to best use this shape. And it's too small for all the minifigs or the characters that I have. This one's a nice feature, but it might not be ideal. And if I were to get enough of these, it would still could be an issue, and it really looks like a capture pod. Or an egg. So when you're in this technology, it doesn't matter where you're facing. Oh, that's even perfect for beta. But not yet for quad ridge. A little too tall, and the tail sitting down, is that the way to go? Still not quite. Still, ugh. Okay, so it could be a little bit, I want to say bigger, but just a little bit more distance and figure out a way to kind of not have a lip around it so that it can extend beyond that. And Logan, perfect. But hmm. There are other options too, but I just need to know if I have 9 of them, one for each team member, with a stretch goal of 12 so that the Tower of Action can have several of these vehicles on standby and some meant for action right away. But now that just experimenting with this helps me keep an idea of what's the next issue that needs to be resolved. Because right now there's a rotating share that's really tall and this capture pod that also could be a Venus flytrap for minifigs. But yeah, so more things to think about. This has been the Ponderous Brick Thinker. Thank you for stopping by. If you liked the episode, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of this project, go ahead and subscribe and sign up for notifications. And see you next time.